depression? Because probably could it lead to even years? Because probably you could talk to someone who have been identified or they have realized recently that they have depression. How long does it take to overcome this situation?
Okay, I wouldn't really fix a specific number, but some things to consider is, one, if it's clinical or severe depression, that means you have started therapy. You're visiting a counselor or a psychotherapist. You're also having sessions with a psychiatrist who has possibly given you antidepressants. So you're on medication after you have already been assessed and diagnosed to have depression. Now, usually, depending on individuals, because like we found out there are different factors that cause. So you might find if it's genetic or if it's from the brain, hormonal imbalance or whatnot, chemical imbalance, sorry. Once you take the drugs, someone might recover in a couple of months, but then, or maybe a year, you continue being on the medication to help you manage and cope. So if it's taking the drugs, normally people are told if you're going to be on the antidepressants, you take them for at least a year or so. If the symptoms are cleared out, then you're asked to take it for at least 6 more months when you still have no symptoms, just to be on the clear. But finding coping mechanisms, I consider it to be the best if now it's not so severe. Yes. So
the average time is a year and a half, because you said someone can take the antidepressants for 1 year, then after they've been cleared out, they can again extend for 6 months, just to be on the safe side. Okay.
That's just an example, because you can't tell with everyone. It's not standard for everyone. You can get a cold and get it done within a week. Mine might last 2 to 3 weeks. So it's not, you can't say specifically this number of period. Yes.
And thank you so much for that. At least that has, you know, someone, at least they understand that it actually depends. On that as well is how is addiction related to depression, because these two things they go hand in hand. You find people in rehabilitation centers, you know, and these people are most likely depressed. How are these things related to each other?
So I would say they are more or less intertwined, because someone can get into depression because they've been because of substance or drug abuse. So if you've been dependent and you've become an addict, you might end up getting depressed. No, that is one way. It can also be the other way around. You can be depressed and have been diagnosed to be depressed, but then you decide to cope and deal with the depression. Instead of getting proper help, you decide you're going to cope with it through drugs and alcohol.
Nice. So it's like the addiction is kind of a coping mechanism for someone who is depressed, because you end up probably using drugs as a way of coping.
Yes.
As a way of coping.
Yes, so it can be, like I said, it can be interchanged or intertwined. So the drugs can come first and cause the depression, or the depression can come first and lead you now down the road of, as a consequence of being depressed, you decide I'm going to deal with depression through drug, because it gives you a higher euphoria rather than having that low down mood throughout.
And that's very interesting, because the aspect of taking more, the addiction causing the depression, it's a very new aspect, because people always think of the other way around, that you have to be depressed first for you to abuse drugs. But you can abuse drugs and end up being depressed.
Yes. Drug abuse and substance can even cause other conditions, like you can have drug-related schizophrenia, where you even have hallucinations. If you've been smoking too much weed for too long in large amounts, you have auditory hallucinations, where you hear people talking to you or you see things, which now becomes schizophrenia, which is a mental health condition.
Great. So let's go to the most important thing about this discussion. Someone has identified that they have depression. What are some of the steps that they need to do, just step by step? You have just realized, and I think it's a very shocking thing, especially you've talked of being diagnosed, and I can imagine someone has been diagnosed with depression, and they feel so bad, because of course it's not a good thing, and you're like, wow, so I'm actually depressed. So what are some of the things that this person needs to do in the process of, coming out of that situation?
Okay, like you said, the most important thing is getting a diagnosis. So that means you've already taken the step to go and get help from a professional. If you have sought the help of a psychiatrist, it's important for you to continuously be consistent with your drug intake, the medication that you've been given. It's also recommended that you go for therapy. Talk therapy is very good. Other things is to intentionally will yourself to be out there. You don't want to, now you know I have depression, and me sitting in the house or in my room locked up is not helping me. Let me decide today I'll go maybe to a children's home and do something nice for someone, because there's a sense of reward in humans the moment you do something for someone else. So be a bit altruistic. That helps with the recovery process. So you also are able to build other coping mechanisms apart from that, especially through going for sessions, for counseling sessions or the psychotherapy sessions.
That's very, very important. Especially I love the aspect of giving back and not sitting at home and feeling sorry for yourself. At least you can go there, donate some few shoes that you are no longer wearing, some few clothes that you are no longer wearing, and probably you could talk about support system, because I think it's very, very important when someone is recovering. How do you make use of the people around you to recover?
Yes. Having a support system is key in any mental health condition, because it's important for you to have someone who can check up on you, someone who you can talk to when you're not, because you know you can't talk to your psychotherapist every day.
All the time.
You can't call them today, call them tomorrow. There's ethics that need to be followed. So it's good to have a close friend or family member, someone you can really reach out to and tell them, today I'm feeling this way, I'm not okay. Can you come check up on me? Can you visit me? Or I'm not at a good place today. Can I come over to your place? A support system, is very important in helping you to the recovery process. Because that is someone who you're also accountable to, and telling them, okay, today I took my drug, my medication, and this is how I'm feeling, and this is what I'm planning to do. Yes.
So it's good to really have someone that you can trust with your issues,
very
someone
important.
you can talk to, probably your friend or your family member.
Yes.
Yeah, let's now talk about someone who's not depressed, but they have someone very, very close who is depressed, because you find that these people who are depressed are kind of sometimes very, very hard to understand. As a person, you don't know how to help them. For example, you have a son or you have a daughter who is depressed, or you have a partner or a wife or a husband who is depressed. How can you help this kind of person, especially if they are resistant? They are resistant to therapy, they don't want to go to the hospital, because actually the large number is like that. They don't want to sort the matter, you know. So as an outsider, someone now who's not depressed, what do you do to help this kind of a person?
Importantly is to support, to be there. Being there for someone is very important. Letting them know that I'm here for you, no matter what you're going through. I have your back. Hearing them, listening to them, not just hearing, but hearing and listening to them, allowing them to just talk and accepting them. Because I think there's also, with our parents and maybe generations prior, when they hear a young lady say, I'm depressed, I'm like, get up, do what you need to do. You're in life.
That's how life. Yeah. In life.